God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
I have my Trump hedge on. In the event Donald wins, I have no doubt in my mind the market tanks.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Willie Lawson. Excuse me for messing with the camera. I think I had like all afternoon to do that, and now right as I'm starting to record, I do that. Anyway, thanks for tuning into this video. This is a project for me because I am looking at things I'm trying to look at things from 30,000 feet. It's really easy now to get involved in every jot and tittle and every nook and cranny of every discussion of every single thing. When I think that sometimes we have to sort of rise and sort of look at the landscape to see what we're dealing with and to see how we're dealing with it. And I am of the mind at this point in almost everything, the major weapon is fear. It seems like in every part of media, the only way to get your attention is to scare you into some apocalyptic end-time fear. And it's about everything. Coronavirus, the testing of coronavirus. Of course, that old favorite climate change, using this little girl, that wants to make everybody feel like this. And today, it was the hurricane. It's all going to kill us, and all going to kill us now. You know, and what's getting really annoying, frustrating, is that social media is developing a pattern and developing a procedure and developing a people that if you're not as afraid as they are, then you're not paying attention. So this idea of fear disguised as caution has become a very central way, although a tried and true method of controlling a population. And it is the thought and the belief of those of us here at Fight Back Media that this is what we're seeing now. So we have to be really careful not to give in to every aspect of the fear merchants and their techniques. And we can notice their techniques. We can notice the words they use. You know, today, you might not have noticed by how the walls are still standing here and that I'm not hip deep in tidal surge, that a hurricane, a Cat 1 storm, came up past Florida today. I listen to the words they use. I listen to the words that they use on the news. I watch the words they use in the newspapers. I watch the words they use in the magazines. And when they're talking about hurricanes, it's always some phrase like, hurricane blah, blah, blah is barreling down on the state of Florida. Well, this particular storm, not so virulent. However, if you also listen to the weather people on the Weather Channel, on CNN, on MSNBC, blah, 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 what you'll hear, if you listen carefully, is that sometimes they seem disappointed. The storm isn't very organized, but it could re-energize itself. But right now, it's not very organized. Just that idea that it's not organized is that instead of using the phrase, the storm is breaking apart, and that's great news. But that's not the words they use. They use the storm isn't very organized, as if they're disappointed by it. because the more afraid they can make you, the more they can say, we say, get out of your house, leave your property. You may die. And local people say, and before you get stupid about this, I've lived in Florida all my adult life and have been through numerous hurricanes. And if you live in a place that always floods, even when it rains on Tuesday afternoon, if there's a Cat 4 storm coming at you and you live in a wobbly box, get the heck up out the wobbly box. It's dumb. First of all, stop living in a wobbly box. And if you live in Florida, you know what a wobbly box is, right? If you live in Tornado Alley in a wobbly box and the siren yells, get out of the wobbly box, right? We're not talking about being stupid. We're talking about once you've lived in an area for I don't know, decades, you understand the weather patterns. You kind of know how it goes. You know what the deal is. You know that a Cat 1 storm that isn't going to come up through the warm waters of the Gulf is probably not going to be that big a deal. It probably isn't going to be. You keep an eye on it. But you don't change anything unless it changes. Have a cup of coffee. You don't even go to the liquor store. Yeah, because they ain't going to be around that long. Well, how do you know that? Because of the last 50. We have to be really very aware of the tool of fear that is being used on you right now by media. One of those things we can see, and yes, I'm going to get to it, is the use of the coronavirus, COVID-19. COVID-19 has killed people. There's no way to say it hasn't. COVID-19 has also been a complicated thing with people who had underlying conditions. It's complicated the problem, and actually it ended up also contributing to the death of people. There's no way to deny it. That anybody's numbers, everybody's numbers says so. But right now, for instance, here in the state of Florida, the fatality rate is 1.46%. 1.46%. 98.5% of the people who are diagnosed with COVID-19 are somehow magically still alive. Because in the beginning, we were worried about death numbers, right? We were people dying. Because we were being told that this disease is killing people left and right. And then what we found out was that this disease wasn't killing people left and right. It wasn't. It just wasn't. Bodies weren't stacking up outside of hospitals. Even though the governor of Arizona said that they had to get refrigerated trucks in to store the bodies before they moved them to the funeral homes, and we found out that that was a little less than the truth. Actually, it was a lot less than the truth. It was a bald-faced lie. And why? Why would a person lie about certain things? Because that's an apocalyptic doomsday picture that should scare you to death. And if you believed it, you were afraid. So, to give you an example, here where I live, the number of people who have succumbed, unfortunately, to COVID-19 is about 1.15% of people who were diagnosed with the virus. 1.15%, which leads me to a survival rate of 98.84%. Hardly something to be afraid of. Hardly. However, the talking heads, the powers that be, the people people who run social media refuse to let any other viewpoint on coronavirus surface or see the light of day. Now, if you continue to have, if you want to post figures about the death rate, and you want to post figures about people who have died, if you want to post information about the one-offs where you have somebody under the age of 15 who died of COVID, yes, it does happen. It doesn't happen very often. As a matter of fact, it almost never happens. If you want to post that as valid COVID information, you can. You know why? Because it's scary. Because it's frightening. And it can push the debate on whether to open schools one way or another. Now, publishing information about other countries that have never locked down and are looking to start their school year here in the next week or so, that might get you shadow banned. That might get you your service suspended. Why? Because if I can make you afraid of something, I can make you do anything I want you to do. If I can make you afraid for your children, I can make you do anything. I can make you think anything. I can make you believe anything. And that's where we are. And friends, that's exactly where we are. So we have to be very, 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 very careful about what we let in the ear gates, what we hear, what we see, and every bit as importantly, what we say. I posted today on Facebook that if anybody believes that the science is settled, then you really don't know much about science, do you? That's the whole purpose of science. It's never settled. You always revisit it. You always continue to discover. So when you have community people, mayors, city council, aldermen, or alder people, I'm not sure what they call alder ladies, alder girls, I'm not sure what they call them, talking about follow the science. But then they ignore a 98% survival rate. Confusing, huh? Because they'd rather have you be afraid of 1.1%. Because then they can tell you to open your business, close your business, open your business to 50%, close your business to 75%. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Wear a face shield, don't wear a face shield. Go to work, don't go to work. Drive a car, don't drive a car. Ride a bus, don't ride a bus. And with mainstream media's help, it's really easy to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to not continue to be manipulated in a way that's detrimental to us. That you're detrimental to yourself. And I understand a lot of you are afraid. Let me give you a quick story. Let's see if I can tell this in a way that doesn't describe an individual. Where I was working on the last day I worked, someone came in the business and was freaked out about the impending hurricane. But when I left the house that morning, I heard that it was a Category 1 storm. Now, if you're like me and been in Florida for 50 plus years, a category one storm is like it rained on Tuesday. It just is. I mean, they have a name for it, and they have a cat. I mean, they've got all the stuff for it, but a Cat 1 storm, really? Yeah, that might happen in any particular day in the summertime, and maybe storms even more intense with rain and wind. One of the biggest storms in our area in the past 30 years has been a storm that we called the No Name Storm that caused huge destruction in our area. Massive rains, massive floodings, massive winds. It just rolled up in an afternoon out of nowhere. So when we see a Cat 1 storm coming at us, we're probably not going to freak out. We're probably going to go, well, we'll keep an eye on it. Cat 1? Yeah. But we're not going to change anything we do. But this dude was freaked out. He was just panicked. As he was walking away from me, he was saying, I don't even know why you guys are open. At the time, the sun was shining and it was bright and it was 9,000 degrees. There was hardly a cloud in the sky. This impending apocalyptic storm was hundreds of miles south of us. Hundreds of miles south of us. And we know storms move at about, if they are cooking, if they're in fifth gear, they're moving 9 or 10 miles an hour, right? If they're in fifth gear. And this thing's hundreds of miles south of us. Hardly used for panic at this point. But as I was thinking about this gentleman, I thought about how effective the power of fear to control a person actually is. And I'm not making fun of him. He was really scared. I felt bad for him because he was really afraid. And he was really afraid of nothing. And I know people now who are really afraid of contracting COVID-19 and dying. And unfortunately are passing on to their little kids that if they catch COVID-19, they could kill their grandparents. Even though the science that everybody wants you to follow says that children are not vectors of transmission. That's the science they want you to keep following. The science that they want you to keep following is that this happened. I mean, they opened up everything in other places that never shut down, and what media has you being afraid of hasn't happened anywhere else. Why do you think it would happen here? We have to be strong. Like I said in the beginning, God has not given us the spirit of fear. It's a spirit. And it's hovering over us. It's being promoted by media. It's been being promoted by some in government. And it's there to cause confusion. And it's there to exert control that it doesn't deserve. It hasn't earned. We must first stand against the fear. We must stand against the fear. We must listen closely. We must measure what's being said to us. We must measure it against the Word of God, when we must not give in to fear. It doesn't mean that we won't be prudent. It doesn't mean that we'll be careless and reckless. It's like you wouldn't skydive without a parachute, right? Of course not. You wouldn't just jump out of the plane and go, well, maybe, God will protect me. No, that's dumb. That's presumptuous and stupid. Of course you wouldn't do that. You would prepare. But we have to stop operating in the spirit of fear. If we ever hope to regain the quality of life that this society affords, we must first throw off fear, put on faith, if we ever hope to regain it, or any semblance of it. My name is Willie Lawson. This is Fight Back 2020. You can reach us at www.fightbackmedia.com, www.fightbackmedia.com. You can reach me at wls860@gmail.com or willie@fightbackmedia.com. This is a video, hopefully, that will encourage you and make you think a little bit. In the meantime, Father, remind who's ever watching this, you have not given them the spirit of fear, that you are still on the throne, that you are still leading them through whatever they need to be led through, and that you will never place on them more than they can bear. Man. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you again. Join us on the Morning Report on everywhere you get podcasts. Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Deezer, wherever. We're like Savoir Faire. We're everywhere. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody. And for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Peace.